Palateria initially, Maishkiji initially, Billigana Bashashin, Kimachini Dashache, Billigana Bashanale. Welcome back to Res Ball. And this time we are talking about the University of Tennessee's Chaz Lanier, probably the best shooter in this class. If I had to bet money on who I think the best shooter in the class is, it would be Chaz Lanier, just because when you get the label as the best shooter, you have to be able to do it from a variety of different sets, angles, on the move, with the ball, without the ball. And I think Chaz Lanier can do all of those things. So let's get into Chaz Lanier right about now. I am filming this the night of June 25th, 2025. It's 10:43 p.m. here in Tucson, Arizona, where we don't do daylight savings time. So I always have trouble with like time changes and stuff across different time zones. So the first round of the NBA draft happened this night. Just some initial thoughts on it from me. Oh boy, some surprising things. Probably the most surprising thing is 7 centers went in the first round. Like all the run on centers, I definitely didn't expect that. The fall of Liam McNeely, the rise of Hanson Yang and Yegor Demon in Brooklyn. Very rarely, like at the beginning, as the draft happens, am I like cooing on a draft. But Brooklyn, I don't get it. And so far, I don't get it. Number one, I didn't think they would keep all these picks. And if you haven't seen yet, Brooklyn drafted Yegor Demon, who is a point guard. I mean, if you want to say that he's not a point guard, he's a point forward. You need the ball in his hands, and his number one skill is passing the ball. Fine and dandy, right? Like, yeah, maybe up in the top 10. Like, okay, they took a swing, whatever. Next pick, they take Nolan Traore, who is a point guard who can't shoot, needs the ball in his hands, a really good passer. So it's like redundant. Like, okay, maybe they're taking chances on him. Next pick, they take Ben Seraph, who is a point guard who needs the ball in his hands, pretty good passer, probably a little bit more of a scorer. That's like, okay, are you trolling us now? And then they also end up taking a Danny Wolf, who is not a point guard, but oh my gosh, what is his main skill? It's being a passer as a big man and needing the ball in his hands. I was watching between CBS Sports and Bleacher Report's coverage on this. I think it was Jonathan Wasserman. I was like, well, it's clear Brooklyn does have an identity. They want everybody to be able to pass the ball and have every position, be able to handle it. But still, it's just like nobody can shoot all of a sudden. A Herculean burden is placed upon the shoulders of Cam Johnson and Cam Thomas, who both, like, honestly, they have to be pretty happy of like, hey, at least we got guys who can set us up now easily and won't take shots from us. But yeah, the Brooklyn one is bizarre to say the least in terms of the draft that I did really like so far. Probably Charlotte, which is bizarre to say. I really like Lee McNeely. I really like Con Knipple. Great two-man combo there. Both guys are going to be able to shoot the ball. Probably can play together. Like I said before, Lee McNeely can play small forward, power forward. Con plays shooting guard, small forward. So theoretically, they can like work together. Is it that Charlotte team is a defensive apocalypse? So I guess they're throwing that out the window. And then trading away Mark Williams is weird, but I do think in the vacuum, just those two picks. Like if you told me my favorite team got Concanapple and Liam McNeely, I'd be pretty happy. So I think that's cool. We'll see how the rest of the Charlotte team um, ends up. But hey, in San Antonio, I mean, obviously San Antonio, great picks. My guy Carter Bryant, shout out Carter Bryant, bear down, man. Gonna do great there in San Antonio. Probably come along a little bit slower. And then Dylan Harper. I'm not gonna lie, I thought these two picks would not convey, and maybe they don't end up conveying anyway, and these guys get dealt to Milwaukee and San Antonio gets Giannis or something like that happens. But if they keep it, Dylan Harper, Carter Bryant, great, fantastic Wembanyama teammates. Dylan Harper, number 2 overall prospect for me and for most people, undeniable guy that can drive to the basket. Shooting is a concern, but as I said in the breakdown on Dylan Harper, is better off the catch. So I think that's probably how he's going to start off. A little bit of a weird fit with De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle, who like they all kind of need to do the same thing of get the ball and drive to the hoop, but Dylan Harper does have more supplementary shooting skills along there. So yeah, the Charlotte ones, I like the players they got in a vacuum. Again, maybe not so much in the team context, just with what's going on there. And then San Antonio being San Antonio, drafting the right exact picks and fit that will do great for them and probably end up being fantastic starters at the very minimum, especially for Carter Bryant, solid rotation piece. And Dylan Harper, expect big things from a young man. But here we're going to talk about Chaz Lanier. Early, I saved this one. I was going into the second night of the draft, the second round, and I'm like, I really want to highlight somebody that I know is going to be there and somebody that I think should be drafted up high, and that's Chaz Lanier from Tennessee. He's actually from Nashville, Tennessee. He went to the Ensworth School there for his senior year. By the end, at the last season at the Ensworth School, Chaz Lanier scored 22.8 points per game, pulled in 6.1 rebounds per game, had 3.7 assists. 56.9% from the entire field at the Ensworth School for Chaz Lanier, 45.3% from three-point range, and that was 77 of 170 shots. So he took 173s, sank 77 of them for 45.3%. You will see this is a running theme with Chaz Lanier, a three-point shooter second to none. It's why I say I think he's the best three-point shooter in this draft, because you go back to the high school tape, and he's been that way ever since. And then you see his career over 5 years in NCAA basketball at North Florida and then at the University of Tennessee. And it's the same, where he's just bombing away threes. And his last year at the highest level of competition on a Tennessee team that always is expected to make deep runs into the tournament. Rick Barnes, great college basketball coach, coached KD when he was at Texas. And it's the same thing. Bomber from three, led the team in scoring all this stuff. A couple things to track for Chaz Lanier. He was 5'6" as a freshman in high school. By his junior season, he grew to my size, 5'10", and then by his senior season, he grew to 6'3". So interesting to track. I know there's guys like CJ McCollum is that way too, where he was, I think, like 5'6", same like that, and then by the end of it, he ended up being 6'3". So similar growth spurt here for Chaz Lanier. And then Chaz Lanier last year, so I think it's 2024, he graduated with a bachelor's in sports management from North Florida. And then he took some grad school classes at Tennessee, continuing in sports management education. So shout out to the young man for continuing his education and getting that degree from North Florida. Let's dive into the stats for Chaz Lanier. This last season at Tennessee, Chaz Lanier scored 18 points per game, pulled in 3.9 rebounds, had 1.1 assists per game, 0.9 steals per game, 0.1 blocks per game, and then just 1.1 turnover per game. Shooting flutes for Chaz Lanier, 47.4% from two-point range, 39.5% from three-point range, and then 75.8% from the free throw line. I'm going to get the like negatives, things to work on, whatever you want to call them, out of the way. Never really a setup guy. Career high in assists was 57, which was his final season at North Florida. 57 assists to 52 turnovers. The averages on that were 1.8 assists to 1.6 turnover. Those are your career highs. And then the assist percentage, the career high was 11.7% in that same fourth year at North Florida. And career low in turnover percent was actually his fifth year here at Tennessee, 6.4%. That's the one thing I will say, especially when it's somebody who's not going to be seen as like this plus passer or somebody that's veering around 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. What's their turnover rate? Every time, that's what I will always say. What's their turnover rate? 14.7% turnover rate as a freshman, goes down to 10.7% as a sophomore, 11.4% as a junior, 9.9% as a fourth-year senior. Then, like I said, fifth-year senior, grad student at Tennessee, 6.4%. That should not go unnoticed. Anytime it's under 10%, fantastic. Anytime it's approaching like 5%, 6.4%, I think might be the lowest turnover rate we've seen from anybody. And it's not like this guy ain't getting minutes, and it's not like this guy ain't getting usage. At Tennessee, Chaz Lanier logged in 1,192 minutes. That's his career high. and he had 28.8% usage, which is also his career high. All of this, and he had a low turnover rate of 6.4%. I mean, that turnover rate is absolutely stellar. So, absolutely, this guy is not a passer. Don't have him play point guard. He's going to be a shooting guard, mainly, maybe an undersized small forward. We'll get to that here in a minute. But yeah, I know the passing's the thing, but who cares? Look at how few turnovers he had. And on an SEC team where he's a leading scorer. And oh, by the way, they got better this year. They won 27 games last year with Dalton Connect leading the way. They won 30 games this year with Chaz Lanier leading the way. Let that not go unnoticed. 56% true shooting percentage. That might be also be something like some people kind of dock him on, because previous 2 seasons it was 58.6% true shooting percentage as a junior at North Florida, and then it was a super high 66.7% true shooting percentage 4th-year senior at North Florida. That's really, like, that season for me was the one that sold me on Chaz Lanier, and I'm like, he's at least worth a second round pick just with his 3-point numbers that he puts up. It seems like he's hyper efficient inside the 2-point arc, and he's athletic enough to do it. And then the physical stuff this year, like, really stood out a little bit more. I didn't think he would have like a gigantic wingspan, but at the combine, Chaz Lanier measured in 6'3" and 3/4 inches without shoes. So we're looking 6'4", 6'5" in shoes. 205 pounds, which I'd always seen Chaz Lanier listed at like 170, 180-ish. Like, you thought he was skinny. So 6'4"-ish, 6'5"-ish, 205.8 pounds. Good size there. 6'9" wingspan. So we're looking at a guy that has like a plus 6-inch wingspan. And 6'9", I mean, we look at some wings, like small forwards that didn't even have that size. So this is where I'm like, you know what? I think this is somebody that could guard up. And with how you saw him at Tennessee, like, didn't really get cooked or shook. It's going to come down to lower body strength. And with this NBA where there are more small ball lineups and stuff like that, that 6'9" wingspan can have you guard up into the small forward position depending on the matchup and depending on who else is out there. I mean, obviously, if like they play Jimmy Butler at small forward and you're facing Golden State or whatever, that ain't going to cut it. But this is where I think, again, this isn't the comp for Chaz Lanier, but this is where I think of somebody like Landry Shamet, who, if you look at his basketball reference, small forward, shooting guard, mainly at the shooting guard, but because of his shooting ability and the way the NBA is now, has been able to play some small forward. And with Chaz Lanier's shooting ability and the defense that he's picked up along the way here at Tennessee, like 6'4", 6'5", 205, 6'9" wingspan, yeah, could guard up. And if you're keeping him just as shooting guard or having him guard the point guard, that 6'9" is Condor like for that position. 3-point attempt rate for Chaz Lanier. I mean, obviously 3-point shooting is his number one thing. 56.1% career 3-point attempt rate. All this stuff is great. Career high in 3-point numbers this last season at Tennessee, 311 threes. Chaz Lanier took 39.5%. 253 2-point attempts as well, 47.4%. Like, those shooting numbers are good, 47.4%, 39.5%. It really was 75.8% from the free throw line. That kind of drugged the whole percentage down. But let's go look at the shot chart. In the shot chart, I want to kind of break down 2 different ways just to give you an idea of how good Chaz Lanier is. So in this 3-man group, I put Chaz Lanier right in between Walter Clayton Jr., who did get selected this draft night. I forget who you got selected by, but went in the first round. So to give you an idea of like, okay, what does Chaz Lanier look like next to the mega shooter that got drafted in the first round? And then Kobe Bria to the right, who I think Chaz Lanier is basically duking it out for in terms of not only the title of the best shooter in the draft, but also, high second round pick shooting type of guy. Every team that needs shooters at the guard position are going to be having the Chaz Lanier versus Kobe Bria conversation. And I lean towards Chaz Lanier being the superior player. So look at this here. Walter Clayton, Chaz Lanier, Kobe Bria. Chaz Lanier took the most 3-point attempts from above the break, 270, which just beats out Walter Clayton's 266. And it laughs in the face of Kobe Bria's 159 attempts. So over 100 more attempts in Kobe Bria from above the break threes. Not really a corner 3-point shooter, 31 of threes. That's the least of these guys here. Walter Clayton took 32, so just one more. And then Kobe Bria took definitely more corner threes, and he was more of the supplementary shooter, not the guy. At Kentucky, took 49 corner threes. Other things to look at here. Chaz Lanier took 127 mid-range shots. That might be concerning for some people, and probably also where the true shooting percentage ended up being hurt. Walter Clayton took 64, still pretty big size. And then Kobe Bria took 24. So that's probably the area with Chaz Lanier of like, do we want him to eliminate the mid-range stuff? I would veer towards no, because it's still pretty good. If you break it down into the medium zones, there's one area where he really stands out, and that's from the left elbow. 57 shots from the left elbow for Chaz Lanier, sank 28 of them. That's 49.1%. That's pretty much automatic from there. Like if he's getting to that left elbow, it's going to go in. You would wish the right elbow would be just as automatic, 13 of 42, 31%, not so great. And then the baseline stuff, whatever, 11 shots from right baseline for 36.4%, 17 from left baseline, 41.2%. But the elbow jumper, he can get to almost at will. And especially from that left side, it's like, yeah, keep doing that. And again, think it's an SEC offense against SEC defensive athletes for a really good Tennessee team that made it to the Elite Eight, I want to say. Lost to the eventual runner-up Houston. I mean, he had to take difficult shots and he had to generate all this offense, and he was still the leading scorer. So this is where I would put the mid-range shooter as something that, yes, you should let him do that still. Obviously not be like a stable part of the offense, but if he gets run off the line, get to that elbow jumper, and especially if it's on that left side, you're going to feel very confident. Chaz Lanier also took the most shots in the paint here amongst the shooters. Walter Clayton, Kobe Bria, Chaz Lanier, 67 shots in the paint, 37.3%. Unfortunately, that is the worst percentage out of these three here. That's probably where his height came into play. Chaz Lanier is also playing with not exactly the tallest dudes at Tennessee. Like his front court mate was Zakai Ziegler, who I'm taller than Zakai Ziegler, and I can't say that about many basketball players. Zakai's listed at 5'9". Jordan Gainey's the other guard that played in here, and he's listed at 6'4". I don't know if he's really that size. And Jemai Mashak is the other guard that played a lot here, and he's also listed at 6'4". I mean, I don't really know who took the rim pressure off either. Like Igor Milicic was more of a um, shooting big, perimeter big. He can like do some stuff inside the 2-point arc, and I do like him a lot. He's somebody I'll be profiling here. And then Felix Akpara, like probably the main rim pressure guy, and he only had 7.1 points per game. He's the center. So that's a part of it with Chaz Lanier. You do need to take into context when looking at the paint numbers. Is like that was pretty packed, man. You know, Meshack, Gainey, Zakai, they ain't taking pressure off of him. And if he got into the paint, Chaz Lanier got into the paint, then it's like there was pressure there. And if you followed this Rick Barnes offense, this is where I do like criticize Rick Barnes a lot. Is it's just like you got to find the one guy that can generate offense. There's not much other creativity to it. So again, keep that in context. And shifting to the shooter in the NBA, just the shooting role. We'll be asking this guy to get in the paint much anyway, but it's nice to know that he got there the most out of all the other shooters here. Walter Clayton, Kobe Bria, Chaz Lanier, he's the one that was able to get in the paint the most. And then the really big one is 59 shots at the rim. That's second to Walter Clayton's 109. And Chaz Lanier sank 43 of them for 72.9%, which was the best percentage out of the shooters here. So 72.9% on 59 shots at the rim. Like, okay, you can see when he gets to the rim, he's going to finish it at an incredibly high rate. That's the shot he took the least. But again, you're asking this guy to run off screens. You're asking this guy to be catch and shoot. You're asking him to create some off the dribble and then shoot the three from a variety of different angles. But you know, when he gets to the rim, he is going to finish that thing. And the other thing that should not go unnoticed, notice here, this I haven't pointed out these little numbers. These aren't listed as shots here, but in the very left corner, of CBB analytics, they will give you this, which basically means these are the shots that are logo shots, as I call them, like those ones that are way out there. Out of everybody we've seen, nobody's taken double-digit shot attempts. Well, that changes today with Chaz Lanier, who took 10 of them, and he sank 5 of them, 50%. So he does have basically in the gym range. Anytime he gets there, he can hit it. He can hit it from just about anywhere. Again, go back to the high school, 170 shots, I think is what I said, 45.3%. He's been this way for a very long time, and he is a legitimate shooter that needs to be guarded anytime he's on the court. So that's why I say Chaz Lanier is the best shooter in the draft, because it does show up from three, where he took the most threes. At all these guys, 311, he took the most above the break threes, which are always the longer part and the ones that give you more spacing, and he's sanking them at the best percentage, in my opinion. I mean, Kobe Bryant had a teeny bit better percentage, third 40.9%, but it's only 159 shots. Again, 100 less threes. And then Chaz Lanier was only 39.6%. So a 1.3% difference is like, nah, man, I'm taking the guy that's taking the 273s from above the break. And I don't know that I would like go to bat for Chaz Lanier getting more free throws, but I do feel like he understood physicality a little bit more. Didn't really show up in the free throw attempt rate, 17.6%. But that probably had to do more with like having Zakai and Igor Milicic and Felix Akbar like take the reins, so to speak, in terms of doing that. And again, mainly being the shooter who just had to launch away from three, second to none in that regard. Background too, give you an idea. How good is Chaz Lanier? Was this just an outlier season at Tennessee? Well, let's go back and look at that last season at North Florida. Again, the North Florida tape to me was one where I'm like, okay, I buy into this guy. Very, very similar. If you're not watching this on YouTube, I put up Chaz Lanier's final season of fourth year. So that's the 2023-2024 season. His shot chart next to Dalton Connect, who was the previous Tennessee guy, and then Jalen Wells, who I don't pat myself on the back very often, but I argued should have been a first round pick, and I had him at number 30 on my big board. I'm sure Memphis wishes they had drafted him in the first round to give him that 4-year first round contract too. Both guys immediately already are fantastic volume 3-point shooters that found their role on successful NBA teams. Gee, I wonder who took the most threes out of this group here. Oh, it was actually Dalton Connect, but Chaz Lanier took the most above the break threes. Yet again, 180 above the break threes. Then he shot 45% on those in the 2023-2024 season. At North Florida, he did not really take mid-range shots. So that's something to think about too, is that was really something that he gained at Tennessee and took a step forward in development. This is where like the mid-range hate throws those kind of things out, is like, if you can develop a mid-range jumper that is actually reliable, that helps you be a lead scorer for a very successful team, you shouldn't throw that stuff out. So only took 20 shots in the mid-range his fourth year at North Florida. So it really wasn't there. I also think that does show like it's easy for him to shift between those kind of roles if you don't want him to do that anymore. He didn't do it at North Florida, so it's still there in his repertoire. And then in the paint, Chaz Lanier had 29 of 53 shots for 54.7%. So the last season in North Florida, he was still good in the paint. This is probably the difference between playing in the North Florida Conference versus the SEC. When you got giant guys that can, jump over your head, that's why you shoot 37.3% in the paint versus the 54.7%. And then at the rim, Chaz Lanier got there 93 times his final season at North Florida, sank 65 of those shots for 69.9%. So this is where I'm like, you know what? You can buy into that percentage, because 93 shots in his fourth year at North Florida versus 59, 79 or 72.9% at Tennessee versus 69.9% at North Florida. Not the gigantic difference, and 69.9% for a guard who's supposedly undersized is still very good. So you can buy into that. He is also a finisher. It's not going to be his main thing, but you can, bet your bippy, whatever you want to say, that when this guy gets run off the line, guess what? He's going to finish at the rim. and he really developed that elbow jumper to be relied upon to be the lead guy, and especially if he gets to that left elbow again, is going to sink it. So it's good to look at all these and why I'm trying to make the case, giving you all this evidence for why I think Chaz Lanier is the best shooter. He still looked very good next to Jalen Wells, who took only 168 threes, 41.7%. Chaz Lanier took 212 threes his final year at North Florida and say 43.4% of those. And then Dalton Connect took 22 more, 234, and he sank 39.7% of them at that final season in Tennessee. And then you put that against uh, Chaz Lanier's 311 his final season in Tennessee and 39.5%. So very, 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 very similar. Look at him next to Walter Clayton, who got drafted in the first round. Superior numbers almost from anywhere. Superior numbers on above the break threes. And the superior 3-point percentage as well. And he was the lead guy. He didn't have to share things with other dudes like Condon and Elijah Martin at Florida. Chaz Lanier had to take pretty much all the pressure there as the main guy. And then last season, North Florida took more threes, sank them at a higher rate than Jalen Wells, who's already a fantastic shooter. Was just a little bit short in the attempts and stuff from Dalton Connect, but had a much better percentage and not that far off, and still maintained really good rim numbers there. So this is why you got to buy into Chaz Lanier as the best shooter in this 2025 NBA draft class. I have Chaz Lanier. I put him at 48, but this is where my tier rankings come into play. And he's in that like NBA rotation tier, which if I remember correctly, begins like in the 20s. And for me, once you get outside like the star potential tiers, it's like I'll put them in the order that I like, but really you can argue for them in any order in that tier. If you want to say the guy that I have at the end goes first, I'm not going to stand in your way. And seeing as how we're going to the second night of the draft tomorrow, like Chaz Lanier at 31, sure, absolutely. And honestly, this is probably somebody that I should have ranked higher because of the wingspan and just to see how well he tracked over 2 years at the rim. And from three, again, think of the role shift. In the NBA, this guy is going to just be a supplementary shooter and is mainly going to probably start in the rotation coming off the bench shooting. And easiest comp probably for me because I'm like, this is Malik Beasley. I obviously am a Piston fan. I watched Malik Beasley all season. Watching the Chaz Lanier tape, I'm like, man, this looks a lot like what Malik Beasley did, where pretty similar size, like 6'4". Beasley's listed at 187, so Chaz has him on that with 205, and then the 6'9" wingspan. But you're going to be asking him to do the same thing that Malik Beasley did in his best season here in Detroit, coming off screens, maybe do a little bit off the dribble. Malik probably has a little bit more creation, but that's because he's been in the NBA like what, 8 years, 10 years now, and picked up a few tricks along the way. I feel very strongly that Chaz Lanier can do that same thing, but similar to how Beasley did when he came in the league, playing for Denver and then going to Minnesota, Milwaukee, a couple other places. Like you're just going to give this guy the green light, and all his other teammates are going to be like, just fine. Find Chaz. Find Chaz when he's open, just like they did with Malik. He's going to find his role. Every team is going to want him because you give him the green light to shoot, and he's always going to reward you with very, very good 3-point shooting numbers. Always going to stay ready. And again, immediate floor spacer, the best shooter in this 2025 NBA draft class. That's almost like copy paste Malik Beasley to me. Many, many great things on Chaz Lanier from YouTube. College Basketball Scouting has 2024-2025 NBA Draft highlights on Chaz Lanier. League Him has a nice Chaz Lanier breaks down his film. Definitely go check that one out because you can hear from Chaz himself breaking down his film, what his thoughts are, what his role is, and what's going on. I Call Game has How Good is Chaz Lanier. Actually, we've seen a couple of these so far. Another great one to look at because, again, look at all the numbers from North Florida, fourth year, to this year, Tennessee, leading that 30-win Tennessee team. My answer to that, obviously, is going to be very good. I think Chaz Lanier can be very good. Who is Chaz Lanier? Ciro Aseo. Again, he says best sharpshooter in 2025 draft class, which I am, of course, going to agree with. And then the last two ones are from First to the Floor, a Boston Celtics channel. Boo. As the Piston fan, I'm got to do that in order to keep up my cred. But they put together a great video. Chaz Lanier is a low key great fit for the Celtics. I mean, this is another player that I would argue is fit proof. This is my draft co host, Jam Hines' term that I always do now. I'm stolen. Sorry, Jam. Fit proof, meaning like any team, any scheme needs him. Again, who needs a Malik Beasley? Everybody needs a Malik Beasley. Just look at the teams that he's played for. Yeah, drafted to Denver, went over to Minnesota, had some issues off the court there. He got in some legal trouble, then kicked around, ended up in Milwaukee, where he really had a career renaissance and helped them out a lot when they needed another shooter. And then here in Detroit, just found his place, found his spot. Should have been sixth man of the year, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm biased, but fit proof dude, Chaz Lanier. And then, of course, Cash Iggy, my guy, my favorite draft guy on YouTube. Bunch of Chaz Lanier stuff. Go check out all the stuff Cash Iggy has on Chaz Lanier. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. Thanks for all the comments, too, man. I always enjoy reading all the comments. I'll try to respond to them there, but thanks for all the feedback. Hopefully you all saw my big board. I did just drop it on resball.substack.com. And I'm excited to see the second round of the NBA draft because my Pistons actually have a pick. I am praying so much for Rasheer Fleming. I'm not gonna lie. That's my guy in this draft who I think is a perfect Tobias Harris replacement. Fits exactly what the Pistons need. 7 foot wide, 5 wingspan, 6'9" guy, shoots a three, defends, fantastic. But if they get a Chaz Lanier like this, another guy would be great. Any 3-point shooter, please. This Piston team needs more spacing. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. We will catch you next time. We're going to